So how much caffeine are you on?
I'm on what I had, a couple cups of coffee, a couple Red Bulls. So
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
we're past the halfway point though. So
Oh, that's crazy. We're going straight to doing lines on the desk.
I don't know if we'll go that far, but
Yeah.
we're taking shifts, which is nice. Kind of I took about an hour and a half nap earlier on, so trying to come back a little,
Oh, okay.
get showered up, feel good to go, man. So I want to first of all say thank you for joining us. You're down in Florida on vacation right now, aren't you?
We are driving back right now. We just crossed the Sabine River, and we are back in Texas. So we are driving back on the annual, beach vacation. So we either go to Destin or Pensacola, but the last couple of years we've gone to Pensacola, and it's just so much better than Destin is. And so we're usually there from Saturday to Saturday. So we're headed on our way back right now.
Awesome. And for those that don't know you like I do, because we've got a true international flavor to what we're doing here in National Social Media Day, besides just being here in Texas and across the country. But we've had speakers from Zimbabwe and Thailand and New Zealand this morning. So we got a very good international crowd. Why don't you share with everybody who Jason Bible is and why you are so cool to listen to?
So in 2013, I quit my job. It was actually July 4th, 2013. So next week, our company will be 5 years old. So we hit the 5-year mark next week. So it's fun to see it come full circle. But I quit my job about 5 years ago and partnered up with a guy by the name of Tom Perry. And we built a company in Houston called Houston House Buyers. And our first 6 months in 2013, we bought 7 houses. And then 2014, we bought 67 houses. And then in 2015, we bought 90 and 100. And now we average somewhere between 100 and 120 houses a year. Most of those are houses that we flip. We do occasionally buy a rental property here and there. We do a couple of owner finance deals a year. We actually bought our first note. I should have sent you a text, Scott. We bought our first note this past probably 2 months ago now, maybe 6 weeks ago. But our business primarily in Houston is finding properties that need work that we then renovate and put back on the market and sell retail. That's just what we're good at. And we do some wholesaling as well. But we should be somewhere between 500 and 600 houses. So a lot of experience in the last 5 years. We've become very good at marketing and sales and buying those houses. We now have a brokerage in-house on the retail side, and now we're building a brokerage just for real estate investors. And then we got our hands in all kinds of stuff now, but that's essentially how we started our business. We just started doing some marketing and started building, and it just kind of took off from there. We didn't expect it to get this big, this fast, but I'm sure you know how it goes. Once you hit on something good, you just keep going after it, and it grows and grows. And so now we do some deals in Dallas, Fort Worth. We've done some deals in San Antonio, and so the discussion we're having now is branching out into other markets. But that's what we do. That's what makes me special.
Right, exactly. So how important has utilizing social media helped you with your guys grow your business?
So I'll tell you what's fascinating about social media is, and when I met you, you introduced me to Gary Vaynerchuk. And one of the things I was found fascinating about Gary is he says, don't create, document. And what we started doing is I would just randomly get on Facebook Live and just talk about what's going on in our business. And I'll tell you why that was a big deal for us. One is it attracted partners, for capital and those sorts of things. It also attracted deals. Like I get deals that somebody just like private messaged me over Facebook, like, hey, can you go, I've got this lead down in Houston and I'm in Florida, if you want it, go buy it. So it's fascinating how small the world is and how really connected it is. And so that's really been the biggest thing for us in social is growing our brand awareness, if you will. And you just don't, maybe a good way to put it is, like we're doing this video right now, and I don't know how many views you're getting now, and I'm sure you're broadcasting this across Facebook and other YouTube and all that other stuff. You know, by the end of the week, you could have 10 to 25,000 people that watch just this broadcast. And, you know, if you're out there with a very clear message, like I buy houses in Houston that need work, somebody is going to watch this video and go, oh, I need to find that Jason Bible guy because I got, you know, my mom's house, or, you know, my cousin has a house. You know, it's being very transparent about what your brand is, and then communicating that through a medium that's, when you look at the cost from a cost standpoint, it's relatively inexpensive. So that's really what's helped us is bringing deals and occasionally some capital to work with some lenders. It's also a huge credibility builder. So when we're working with, you know, title companies, or we're branching out of our market, like say into Dallas, and we sit down and have a discussion with or some other business, they're like, well, who are you guys? And we're like, well, we buy a lot of houses down in Houston, and they can find all of our archives and go, okay, these guys are the real deal. So, and I think there's some equities in building a social media presence that we haven't capitalized on yet. And I don't know what those look like in the future, but I think it's been pretty darn important to building our brand and building our business.
Yeah, because you guys have done a variety of things. You've got a full-blown budgeting market. You've got a radio show that you're doing, you know, Monday through Friday. You've got some billboards, dropping a lot of direct mail.
Yes, ton of direct mail.
You know, so, but you also spend a lot of time coaching other entrepreneurs in the real estate side and talking about how important marketing is for them too, correct?
Right. So we've got a radio show that we do daily. We also do it over Facebook Live. And the radio show was really interesting because we were approached and there was a previous real estate related radio show that was canceling their show, and the radio station contacted us and said, would you guys be interested? And I sat down with Tom and I said, hey, do we have time to do a daily radio show on Houston Business Radio? And he goes, yeah, I think we can fit it in the schedule, but you know, it'd be great if we could bring in some sponsors to defer some of the costs and those sorts of things. And so that would not have been possible if we weren't on Facebook already, if we weren't doing videos already, if we weren't speaking in front of groups and that sort of thing. But back to your question, yeah, we do a lot of, I shouldn't say we do a lot of coaching, but we've got a coaching program and consulting and all that sort of stuff that we do. We put on an event once a month, you know, our weekend retreat, where we show people how we built Houston house buyers over a Saturday and a Sunday. And what's amazing to me, and you probably agree with this, but I'd love to get your comment on it. The more I do this and the more successful we become and the more transactions that we do, you really begin to realize there's only a handful of ways to do this business the right way. Like there's a whole lot of junk out there and most of it doesn't work. There's only a couple of things that you've got to do to get it done right. And you can't shortcut any of that. You know, there's one of the things that we say in our office is you can't microwave a turkey, right? You can't microwave success, right? It takes time. And a lot of new, it's fascinating to me when I sit down with somebody, let's say they're like an engineer and they want to get into real estate. They're like, Jason, I want to make $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000, whatever the number is a year flipping houses. And I'm like, okay, well, that's simple. You only have to do X, Y, and Z. But then I tell them, hey, what if you don't mind sharing with me, how much do you make now? Oh, I make $200,000 as engineer. And I'm like, great. Okay, so how long have you been an engineer? Oh, 20 years. Well, did you get paid $200,000 when you came out of school? Well, no, of course not. I had to put in my time, build my experience, all that sort. I said, this is the exact same thing, except for there's a lot more money to be made, but you still got to put that time in, right? You can't microwave it, right? You can't, you know, it's kind of like, you know, since this is social media day, it's like you do one Facebook Live and nobody shows up and it gets 5 views. It's like, well, why don't I have 5,000 views like Jason's Facebook video? I'm like, because you're brand new, right? You gotta put in the time to be successful. But if you do it long enough and you do it consistently, it will start to work.
Yeah, it's like going and start playing T-ball, but expecting to get drafted by the Yankees.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things that I've been watching a lot of Gary's stuff lately, and one of the things he says is like, the top 1% of wage earners starts at about $465,000 a year in the most advanced economy, in the most competitive place in the world, the United States. And it's amazing to me how many people think they can pay for some real estate coaching, go to another seminar, listen to a couple of DVDs, and expect to make $500,000 a year right out of the gate. It's like, hey man, you don't seem to understand. This is a business in the most advanced economy the world has ever seen. Now it'll happen. It just takes some time, right? And your analogy is perfect because so many people, you played college football, right?
Yep.
So there was probably a point in your college career where you realized, I'm just not going to get into the pros. Like, these guys are so good, it's not even funny. The difference between the D1 guys and everyone else, it's monumental how much better these guys are. Like, so my favorite sport is cycling. Tour de France starts next week. And you look at these guys and how fast they are, and it's just mind-boggling. But nobody equates that to business. Like, everyone assumes they're going to make $1 million a year. And I'm like, you don't get it. Most business owners don't. It's kind of like, it's one of those lies that Kiyosaki told when he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's everybody assumes that they can play a little t-ball and get drafted by the Yankees. And it's like, that's not how this thing works, right? You've got to put in the time. You got to put in the work.
One of the great things you've been doing lately, and you've been doing this for the last few months, it's different because you've got basically two different kind of personalities when it comes to your Facebook Lives. You do the Facebook Live through your radio show, but it's more a radio show with a Facebook Live. Mm-hmm. It's just an auxiliary kind of aspect of that. It gets recorded, gets thrown up as a podcast as well. But you also do a lot of individual Facebook Lives on numbers and what's going on in the Houston market, and it really draws a lot of attraction to you because of the real estate economist, the Bible of Houston.
Yeah, what's been fun lately, and it just started happening this year, and it really started right around Hurricane Harvey, is I've been flying all over the country, not even really pitching Houston house buyers or Right Path Real Estate is our real estate education company. I've been flying around the countryside explaining to people how great Texas is as a market to invest in. There is, and in fact, there is no better market in the country than Houston, Texas. I can tell you that unequivocally right now because I've been in all of them. I've got students all over the place, so I see all the numbers. I can pull all the data for Houston just like I can for all these other markets, and it's it's been one of my little pet projects is getting on Facebook and talking about either Facebook posts or Facebook Live and talk about this is what's going on in Houston. This is why when people tell me like, Jason, real estate's getting expensive, and I'm like, you think it's expensive now, just wait another 5 years. So whenever I get an opportunity to get in front of a group of people, I always like to tell them kind of what's going on in Houston and where I think this is going to head. But more importantly, I tell them, I'm like, guys, how many of y'all regret houses that you bought 5 years ago? And most people will say, well, I don't have any regrets. My only regret is not buying enough. And I'm like, exactly. That's only going to get worse, right? And there's some number of reasons why that. But yeah, so I'll do just random sometimes I get on Facebook Live and just start ranting because I go to some meeting somewhere and, they're telling a bunch of lies that don't make any sense. I mean, just kind of crazy stuff and then I get emailed stuff all the time from guys, or they'll send me a personal message on Facebook and they're like, you got to see this post. Like somebody sent me a video of Ty Lopez, who allegedly knows real estate, where this guy's asking a question to him on Facebook Live. And he can't answer how to calculate cap rates. I'm like, this guy's teaching real estate education. It's mind-boggling, right? So yeah, I do all kinds of stuff. And just whenever on a whim, I just fire it up on Facebook, and then I just kind of go to town, if you will. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, but you guys have also brought it. You've hired a person. You've got somebody that's handling your in-house digital marketing, though, too, for you, though, correct?
Correct. So we got a whole team of people now. I've got a studio. We don't use that studio as much as we should, but we've got folks to handle. So my VAs, I've got a team of VAs that also manage some of the stuff on social. So if you guys ever read something that sounds a little crazy or just like that doesn't sound right, sometimes that's the VAs, sometimes it's me. But so I've got some VAs that are helping with some of that. One of the things you'll find, and Scott, you've got a much bigger presence than we do on social media, that just the amount of stuff that comes in every day, like the number of posts and emails, and you get LinkedIn posts. I mean, it's a massive amount of stuff. So you start having to bring people in house. We do a lot of digital, like what I like to call traditional digital marketing, which is pay-per-click marketing. So we do a lot of Google AdWords. We do stuff on Bing. We do ad retargeting, all that other kind of nuts and bolts, basic kind of business stuff. And really, when we start bringing people in our organization, what we really look for is it something we can scale up? And one of the things I'm realizing, it's kind of like what you're doing here today. You can't scale Scott Carson, right? Like you got to be the video. You got to be kind of the face of them. They want your opinion on a lot of this stuff. However, that doesn't mean you're the guy that has to do all this other stuff. And so as we've grown, we've really stuck with the forward-facing pieces of our brand, or Tom and I, and then all this other stuff is backfilled with employees and staff and all that. Like we are going to end up hiring. We're in the last phase of an interview with a marketing person right now. We're going to hire another marketing person to come in and help me with just writing emails. Like, hey, here's the 15 topics I want to talk about. Oh, by the way, there's 10 Facebook Lives that we download all these things and they're categorized, and we want to turn all those into like a 25 email series or something. So the big challenge for us is we put out so much content, we're not able to leverage it as well as we should. So it's not a bad problem to have, because as you know, the content is typically the hardest piece. It's just getting somebody in-house to help us with all that, categorizing it, writing emails, and leveraging all that we can. And you got a bunch of marketing folks over there. You got 2 or 3 folks in your office, right?
We've got them off site now. We've got them off.
Oh, okay. So, I mean,
yes.
Yeah, you know as well as I do. I mean, it's like you put out so much content, but you want to make sure that you communicate it. And that's one of the things that I learned from you, watching you especially, and then watching Gary Vaynerchuk when he talks about respecting the medium, right? Some people just want to read blog posts. Some want to watch a podcast. Some want to watch a radio show. Some people like watch our Facebook Lives. We need to branch out and do Instagram and some of these on Twitter and some of these other things. But there's a way to communicate each one of those messages in such a way that it gives us the most leverage in those mediums. So that's what we're kind of working on right now. What is that? What does our social media look like 2.0, if you will? Like I said, we've got enough content out there. We just need to categorize it and get it out on these different mediums.
I think you mean 5.0, don't you? 5.0.
5.0, yeah. There you go, yeah.
But that's the big thing. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs, they get to doing one thing, and they get so stuck in doing their one thing, they don't, tweak their message, they don't tweak their business model, they don't tweak what they're doing for. They keep doing the same thing they've been trying to do 3, 4, 5 years ago, and you've got to evolve with the times. You got to keep constantly learning, kind of not reinventing yourself, but re-adding kind of digital tools to your toolbox, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, and here's the amazing thing. If you can find lenders and find deals all on Facebook, like if I knew 5 years ago what I know now, I would get into real estate, do my real estate thing, whatever I want to do, buy and hold. Although I would have done a lot more buy and hold, and that's one of the things that we're tweaking in our house buying business. But when you get into the business, one of the things that shocked me is you need to let people know what you do. Let me give you a great example. So I was looking at deals all across the city, and this is when I was first starting out before I quit my job. And I'll never forget, I came home one night, it was pretty late, and I saw the neighbors, like catty corner across the street from us, were packing up. This is like a Tuesday night or something. It's totally random. And so I asked Sarah, I said, well, have you heard anything about the neighbors? Like, what's going on? Well, the next day they were gone, skipped town, house is empty. And I found out a month later that was going to foreclosure. And so I'm kicking myself, and I'm like, if my neighbors knew what I did, we would have bought that house. And so one of the things you want to do in social media is just let everybody know that, what it is that you do. Does that mean you're going to buy a house, this month? No. Does that mean you're going to buy a house a year from now? Probably not. But in the next 2 to 3 years, you'd be amazed how many deals you get as referrals when you become known as, the guy in Houston that buys houses that need to be fixed up. So, but you're right. If these entrepreneurs are fixed on this one thing and they're not looking at tweaking their messages or looking at different ways they can market to people, they're going to miss huge opportunities.
It's ever evolving. And that's the beautiful thing about what's going on.
No lie.
And just when you think you know it, Zuckerberg's going to switch it up on you.
Oh, you know what? That's a great point. So there's an article, and I want to say it's in Time Magazine, like the top 25 or top 30 online personalities, like internet personalities you should know. And so I was sitting there reading through this week, and there's this woman, and she's like some kind of fitness blogger or something. And she used to troll celebrities' Twitter, like just jokes and silly stuff like, yeah, I'd never do that. Whatever happened over at Twitter, there was an algorithm change about a year ago. And all of a sudden her comments rose to like right underneath. I'm not sure how Twitter works from the algorithm standpoint, but somehow her comments were literally pushed to like the very top. And she went from a nobody to making $500,000 a year in the last 12 months with just an algorithm change. And I'm like, that's incredible. So, that's also one thing to tell you that, yeah, you can have an algorithm change. And you and I have talked about this. Something goofy happened in Facebook over the last 6 or 8 months. And if your business is directly, most of your revenue is directly related to this one thing, doing this one type of video or whatever it is, and you think you've got it all figured out, Google will make a change, Facebook will make a change, Twitter will make a change, and all of a sudden, you're scrambling to bring your business back online.
Yep, I would agree to that. It's you got to put money into it. You got to test it out. It's going to tweak it up. It's going to change it up a little bit. But that, like you said, something that's important. Getting the content out is the most important thing. Getting stuff out, getting those posts out. I mean, that's whole. We talk about what Twitter did and how Gary Vaynerchuk really kind of created Wine Library TV by reaching out initially to wine lovers and local people and stuff like that to really make things happen and target marketing. Everybody get the word out that he was Wine Library TV. He's a guy that chewed on rocks and swallowed dirt from the the countries or the places that these grapes are raised in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't see you drinking the water in Houston, especially but hey.
No, thank you.
Yeah, let's get a taste of these waters.
Right, exactly. Now, is there any mistakes that you've made in your I already know the answer to this, but some of your social media, any mistakes you've made over the last 5 years?
Not doing more of it. I really think you can't screw it up. I mean, here's one thing I see where when folks ask me like, hey, how do you do the social media thing? I'm like, just do it. Well, and a lot of people are, they have some trepidation about, I'm putting myself out there and what if people don't like me? And then I always, whenever somebody says that, I'm like, there are people that don't like you now. So why does it really matter? And then of course, I always like to go into an adult conversation. Like I always ask somebody when they say something like that, I'm like, you're an adult, right? Yeah. Do you really care what other people think? I mean, is it that big a deal? I mean, are you willing to not be successful simply because there might be people out there that don't like you? Like I could really care less. And so, I think my biggest mistake early on was not doing more of it, like especially early on. I mean, I should have, when we started Houston House Buyers, just documenting that whole process to show everyone day to day, like, this is what it looks like. I never wanted one of these guys teaching education that, sits on his high horse or sits on his throne and looks down at everybody and says, hey, what 20 years ago? Like, I always thought it was so silly. Like, I wanted to be the practitioner in the trench. Chat with some students up in Dallas 3 weeks ago, doing an event has some challenges in there. And they say, you know, we're just struggling with cash flow process. Yeah, business. I said, let me tell you this, the struggle that you're having is the same one that I have. The only difference is my business has a couple more zeros. It's the same thing. Like, and so, you know, starting out, I wish I had done more documenting that entire process, because I feel like some people look at us and they're like, well, I mean, it's so funny when somebody comes to me and they'll say, well, we don't want to build a Houston House Fires, but I mean, you can do some things that we can't because you're so big. And I'm like, no, we can't. It's all the same. The numbers are all the same. We just do more of it. But
Right.
it's all the same game. So I think I would have started earlier doing more of it. I'm trying to think of any other like specific, like don't do this kind of thing. I mean, you watch my Facebook Live, so I'm not shy of controversy. I know
No,
some people don't like that.
you know, it's good to mix. We've had people here to talk about it's good mixed up. You've had your share of trolls come
Yes.
in and bad mouthing, and where your community sticks up for you and butchers people that go to troll you because you've built a good community, you've shared plenty of information online, you're transparent. Let's talk about that situation a little bit, huh?
Sure. I mean, it's actually, we've got one now. I have not checked Facebook since last night, but I think this guy is about to step in a big pile of it. And it's like, you know, what's fascinating about our business is that you really can't lie. You really can't. So, for example, there's a guy that teaches real estate education. He lives out there in Austin, and he goes around Texas and he teaches whatever he's teaching. And people ask him, oh, well, you know, where do you buy your houses? And when he's in Houston, he tells the Houston people he buys them in Dallas. And then when he's in Dallas, he tells the Dallas people he buys them in Austin. I mean, it's this kind of game, shell game that he plays with folks. And I said, guys, it's real simple. All you have to do is ask somebody what LLC they buy their houses in, and you can pull it up right here on your phone. Like, our net worth is a matter of public record. You can't, it's 2018. You can't hide assets, especially stuff that's recorded publicly. So Tom and I end up becoming a really big target for a lot of these sorts of guys and their followers, because we're in a sense calling these people out, and it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But you know what? One of the biggest challenges we've had in our business is that we are I like to call it the lost puppy. We take all the lost puppies from real estate. By the time someone makes it on our doorstep, they've spent so much money in real estate education with all these different like national programs that they're so messed up. We're their last stop before they quit.
So you're saying,
and I see the aftermath.
The island of misfit investors.
That's right. Yeah, I get all the, you know, what's the quote on the Statue of Liberty? Bring us your.
You're tired, you're poor, you're hungry.
Yeah, that's who ends up on our doorstep, because our message is so diametrically opposed to everything else that's out there. And you'll have people that go through our weekend retreat and they'll go, oh my gosh, it makes sense now. And so a lot of times I will get tagged in posts like, hey, Jason, have you heard this? And then I'll post, I'll just say, guys, that doesn't work. And then somebody wants to fight about it. I'm like, you can fight about it all you want. Just post what LLC you buy all your houses in and how many you bought this year. Why don't you post the HUDs, the settlement statements? I mean, that settles the debate, but a lot of these guys don't, right? And so it turns into this battle online, and it's so childish. It really is. But I mean, it's real simple. I mean, put up or shut up, right? Show us how many houses you bought. Put the settlement statements on. Like, I'll post HUDs. I do it all the time. I'm like, this is when we bought it. I've posted P&Ls before. I mean, just do that. But a lot of these guys that you know, it's the old, what's that old saying? That Tom loved this one. Well, no, this is one of my favorites. When you throw a rock in a pack of dogs, the one that yelps is the one that got hit. And so whenever I post something on social media and somebody goes ballistic, I'm like, oh, I know the dog that got hit. You know, this is hitting them personally. And so, and you're right, man, the community comes out and they are fierce. They really are. We've got some, and I'll tell you why they're so, and I'll tell you what, the folks that follow us are absolutely fantastic. They get our message. And the reason they're such ardent supporters is that our stuff works. And they've tried so much other fly-by-night nonsense that doesn't work, that they're like, look, dude, what he's telling you works. You can argue all you want, or they'll start. I've seen some of them post their own HUDs and settlement statements and marketing budgets, and like, you know, and so that has a tendency to tick a lot of people off, because I think some of these people have tried so hard at using kind of the more popular techniques. You know, I'll give you my favorite one. Let me give you an example. Wholesaling. You will hear from every single real estate guru on the planet that wholesaling is easy. And I will tell you unequivocally right now that is 100% not true. It is one of the biggest lies in our business. Wholesaling is the hardest thing to get right. And the question is why? A wholesaler has to get it cheaper than any other investor, because they're going to sell to an investor. So you're taking somebody who's brand new, telling them wholesaling is easy, despite the fact that a wholesaler must have the most superior marketing and sales skill set in order to be successful. Most wholesalers are an abysmal failure because they don't understand that. So it's stuff like that I get into a lot of arguments online, and I don't care if they disagree because they're wrong. I mean, we could quote agree to disagree, but I'm like, that doesn't mean you're right. So, you know, there are certain things that are afforded to us because we spend so much money on certain things, because the business has gotten so big now that we have, like, if there's a cheaper way to buy a house, I'm not saying we would have figured it out by now, but it's pretty likely that either us or HomeVestors would have figured out an easier way to do this. So, you know, when we get into these big debates online, you know, I'm like I said, I mean, you can agree or not, it doesn't really matter, because you're arguing against the law of gravity. Like, that's how I look at it when we get in some of these big online battles, and then all of our followers just naturally like start piling on, and they're like, dude, you don't understand, I tried to do this and this and this, and this is why this doesn't work and all. So I'm not worried about controversy at all. And I can totally understand why some people aren't. I can tell you my wife is not a big fan of the online battles. But you know, by and large, if you're getting in this business, say you're doing, you know, the distressed paper business like what you and your guys do, or you're getting into the house buying business like what we do, you're not really going to get into a lot of those kind of arguments online, right? I mean, nobody's going to say, oh my gosh, you should have put in, you know, marble instead of granite, or quartz instead of marble. I mean, it's just like that doesn't, there's not any crazy debates about that. When you start to buck conventional wisdom, that's when the controversy starts. I'll tell you one right now. I don't think most people should go to college. I've been on that little kick for about 2 years now, and I've said it to some folks in person, and they're like, what do you mean? Your kids have to go to college? I'm like, really? Let's look at the numbers. And so when you brush up against conventional wisdom like that, like I have this, I'm going to do a whole radio show on Robert. Yeah.
We're out of time, my friend.
Oh, are we? Oh. We are out of time. All right. I can keep going.
I know. And that's okay. We'll save that for another Facebook Live at some point.
Yeah. So don't bunk conventional wisdom, and you guys won't get any arguments online.
There you go.
The trolls don't come out.
That's your
The
social
trolls
media
won't come out.
for the day. Hey, man, you guys drive safe. Thanks for joining me on your way back, bud. All right? Yeah. We'll see you later.
Excellent. Thanks for having me on, Scott.
Thanks, bud. Talk to you later. Gotta love it.
Jason's a lot of fun.
He is a lot of fun. All right, I'm going to bring Haley back on here. Never start her video. Mute her.
Haley.
Hey, how are you guys?
I'm good. Welcome.
Thanks, I'm excited.
I'm super excited to have you on.
How's everything been going?
Oh, I'm good.